This video has been automatically generated from an article written by Martin Freiland, that's me, on martinfreiland.com. At the end of the year, it may be good to summarize what has happened and what we have been able to learn. The year 2025 has once again made some things clear, namely that nothing has changed within the alternative media, except that we have received more of it. More analyses that point out that mainstream media only provides space for just one narrative, while alternative media offer an alternative to that one narrative that is nothing more than that, an alternative. Whether that alternative also represents the truth? Unfortunately, we have to conclude that this is not the case. According to them, Charlie Kirk was not a hoax. The attack on Bondi Beach in Sydney was also not a hoax. The alternative sound only exists in false flags, and an alternative to the enemy image in wars. The great acting remains untouched. The alternative sound does nothing more than offer diversity, without sawing at the legs of the basic lie. New heroes are launched through the appearance of persecution by justice and a lot of media attention. These new heroes may once again express an oppositional sound that is critical of the monotonous sound of mainstream media, but only offers an alternative that never takes the sting out. Someone like the well-known Dutch podcaster Jan Roos, who calls for the abolition of the royal family and copies the sound of the undersigned by saying that all power lies with the Council of State, but who does not expose the major hoaxes, who collaborates with someone who was allowed to sell the Polenberg hoax and who helps maintain the Israel-Gaza hoax. The state repeatedly launches its own pseudo-critical Judas goats. Of course, it is nice to hear such a pseudo-critical sound when the idea that we are dealing with completely staged hoaxes goes a bit too far for you. But that is precisely the trick. It goes a bit too far for you because you hear the kind of blowhards like Jan Roos and Alex Jones, and the entire alternative media remains silent. That is their task. You should feel like an odd one out if you adhere to divergent ideas. And it works excellently. You do not want to be part of that strange loner who says everything is completely fake, right? No, that goes too far for you. It goes too far because you do not hear anyone else say it. And so the group feeling comes into effect, as beautifully demonstrated in the Ash experiments. Then you will join the majority. Then you still feel good, because fortunately, you are offered a majority that is critical of mainstream media. You now have two groups to choose from, and you can still feel safe in the group. You do hear the alternative media speak about consciousness, and even about living in a simulation, but no one makes it concrete, and says that therefore absolutely no one has authority over you. You do hear the alternative media criticize the institution called the royal family, but no one mentions the document that has been on the website since August 2022, namely the response from the Secretary General of the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, stating that the ministry cannot prove the existence of the grace of God. That grace of God with which the king claims to be sovereign and which gives the king the power to sign laws. If the grace of God is a fable, based solely on a Bible text, then laws are invalid. The emperor has no clothes. Why do not we hear that in those brave-heart alternative media? That is what you really should be hearing. The entire system you tremble for is based on one basic lie. But no, you do not hear that because you are kept neatly within the desired alternative narrative. Even if you do not believe anything of the simulation theory, the theory that shows you are the highest authority, that document should be enough to make you realize that the system has no power. No judge, no police, no tax inspector, bailiff, or collection agency. They can only use unfair means, such as wage garnishments and more foul play. But as long as we continue to bend and pay, nothing changes. Yes, something does change. While everyone continues to podcast and chat for hours about what is to come, it will actually happen. The police state, total monitoring, confiscation of savings and other assets, digitally traceable money, and a social credit score system. And in the meantime, you are being frightened by state spies playing the sovereign role, and who come grandly into the media and the alternative media through staged arrests and trials. It is all scaremongering with a label. Labels always work powerfully. Wacko, sovereign, conspiracy theorist. And then dismiss for the gallery. so that everyone cowers in fear. Everything is staged with state actors. Why am I still walking around freely? Why is the one who loudly proclaims that the state and its laws have no authority over you still walking around freely? Because they cannot do anything. They can only pretend they can do something. And that is why they have to arrest actors in stage trials. Everything is acting. The court has no authority. That court applies invalid laws. Those laws are signed by someone who claims to have the authority to sign those laws, but in fact does not have that authority at all. That so-called only sovereign, that so-called king. What does the Secretary General say in his response letter? The origin of the grace of God is biblical and should be sought, which is already vague, in the part of the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans. Should be sought? Well then seek. A letter from a book is not evidence. The system that you are so annoyed by and to which alternative media only help to have an alternative annoyance has no authority over you. This applies not only in the Netherlands, Belgium, or the United Kingdom, where we happen to have a king who, by the grace of God, would have the sovereign authority to sign laws and preside over the Council of State, but also in countries with a republic or other forms of governance. Have you chosen it? Have you given that authority? That is why you must be lured to the polling station with bait. When you vote, you give your authority to the system and effectively acknowledge its power. You are naturally sovereign. You are consciousness born into a world where everything is interconnected with deceit and trickery. By no longer conforming and allowing yourself to be patronized by the rules and measures of the naked emperor, you bring change into your own life. It starts with yourself. Do not wait for a hero to rise who organizes a march with flags and banners through The Hague or Brussels. Do not wait for stone-throwing squatters storming the Prime Minister's office or farmers spraying manure against the Parliament building. The state is very good at staging such scenes. Start with yourself, and you do not even have to declare yourself sovereign. You already are. Simply realize that the emperor is naked and that with it, all the emperor's lackeys are also naked. Give the system the middle finger. The system lies, deceives, steals, and robs, and the system traps you. You remain like an immovable horse at the invisible reins of the non-existent stable owner. The grace of God is a fairy tale. You are already free. You just have to start seeing it, and then start moving freely. Okay, that was it again. Share and like this video, and see you next time.